All right, cut.
Hi everyone, my name is Marija. I lead the content marketing team here at HTEC, and today I'm here to discuss everything product related, how the role of product is changing in the current technology landscape. Unavoidably, we are going to talk a lot about AI and data, and for that purpose I have two great experts here today. One of them is Sanja. Sanja, please introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm Sanja. I'm head of data and AI at HTEC and working at the intersection of business, technology, and product. And today I hope I'll share some good insights or interesting insights about how AI is reshaping the way we are building data and AI products.
And the other speaker today is Daca. Daca, please introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm Danijela Nestorovic, working as a product practice lead for strategic initiatives. My main goal is to understand what is the next big thing we should focus on as a product team. And one of them, as we know, it's AI and data. So I will try today to give my angle, how I see it from the product perspective and where are we headed.
As I was preparing for this interview, I remembered of something that happened in early 2000s. So I had two friends. One was a real computer geek and the other was looking to buy a computer. So naturally they sit together and the friend who wants to buy a computer says, okay, I want to buy a new computer. Can you give me some advice? You know, I plan to spend a fair amount of money. I don't want to make a mistake. And the geek friend is like, sure, let me know what is it that you're looking for. Have you already considered some models? You know, do you intend to use it for gaming, etc.? And the other friend says, yeah, I was thinking, I think I want something that's dark blue.
Yeah.
So I guess my first question is, have we reached that point, you know, in the product market where I want to do something with AI is actually the dark blue computer, right? So I read some stats that up to 70% of AI products actually fail in the first year. So what's your take on this?
Well, the number is correct, but the number is something that it's historically not just for a product in AI. That's the exact number, but basically, there are other problems that are causing this to be so high. Basically, first of all, there is a lot of pressure. Either it's from marketing or from investors or fear of missing out or just I want to be in the innovation cycle just to have something new. AI is something new. But basically, what's the problem here is that we are moving away of focusing on what's the real user pain, what's the problem that we want to solve. And we are just trying to put the AI into something. So that's from the start, bad position. What's aside of that pressure, which comes from the market, additionally is you're trying to implement AI in the organization, which is not ready for that in multiple terms. First of all, organizational. You don't have teams which are ready to implement this. You don't have the roles set as it should be. And on the other side, you don't have a readiness, which is Sanja's area. Basically, you don't have data ready, you don't have infrastructure ready, and you're trying to plug in something that it doesn't work. So there are, let's say, a lot of steps before that should be taken into consideration before we just implement AI as it is.
Yeah, but it seems that the overall hype, you know, is just clouding it all, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's as I said, that noise which comes from the different sides, investors, market, and so on, that is making you not think clearly but just jumping into solution. That's what we in a product we have a problem space and a solution space is basically just jumping out directly into the solution without really understanding what you need, how to invest. Is that a solution? Maybe it's not ready still. Maybe you can, with the traditional way, you can still solve the problem in maybe even better results than it is.
Yeah.
And I think we need to emphasize that we are in a very specific situation today where technology advances at a speed that we cannot keep up with. So we cannot think that fast. We cannot think as fast as technology changes because it changes daily. And that brings a additional type of pressure, even a new type of pressure. Because what we see and what we hear from many voices is very promising. And it really looks like the technology, this new technology brings something new to the table, brings some very, very new opportunities that make the promise of making drastical changes. And that's why everyone skips that problem space that you were talking about and rushes into solutioning. But what is happening, and that's something that is really concerning today, is that by skipping the problem space, you are actually ignoring the critical thinking side. And that is the most concerning and frightening today, even when you're rushing into solutioning, when you're rushing into making decisions without having all the arguments in place. The critical thinking is still very important, mustn't be skipped. Yet, because of all the pressures, because of all the shiny objects that we are seeing, and many are talking about that, we tend to do that. To not think clearly, to not take all the arguments into consideration. And even when there is some sound thinking happening across the organization, we tend to ignore that and just rush into implementation because we are in a specific type of a racing environment right now. Everybody races with each other, but we are really not clear on what the true goal is. What's the prize? No one knows.
Yeah. Well, definitely. Jumping to solutioning is a big problem. So,
and maybe just to add, what's the to reference to Sanja's point, we are sometimes not questioning enough initial assumptions which stakeholders come with on the table, and frequently what really happens after we really do a problem space, we totally pivot from that initial set of assumptions that stakeholder had, and or totally change the direction where we are going because they just take one side, or they, as Sanja mentioned, we need critical thinking in that, and that's put aside because I don't know, people are maybe afraid to question, to ask, but we always say that's why sometimes in the product world we are being sometimes bored with why question, but that's a space where you need to dig deeper.
Yeah, and that way you can avoid like costly rework. Yeah,
exactly.
So in this shifting landscape, what should the product journey look like? So back to pain points and you know, putting the user up front. So what would the product journey need to look like to secure a more favorable outcome?
Yeah, that's basically in general, not just for the AI, in the whole product segment. What it's a best practice to do is to go deeper into the research. Either that's a user research, market research, ethnographic research. Aside of that, we need to understand technology on certain level. But again, that's something that comes quite later. So basically creating the prototypes, which is what the AI tools are enabling now, even for wider set of creation of products, is to have a way to fast prototype. So try it out, show, because sometimes it's really hard to put your thoughts in the right direction, but with showing and testing and validating, incorporating feedback constantly, you will get the good track. Or in the end, it's okay to put aside and say, okay, this is not what we should do. So basically a lot of effort in the research, in the prototyping, and validating the solution to make sure that it's feasible, that it's viable, and it makes sense to be in the end, and it's a cost efficient. It makes sense to invest in this.
Yeah. Plus, you know, this fast prototyping that you mentioned doesn't only help you, you know, like put the straight roadmap, but also helps probably, you know, align all the stakeholders. Because if they come with an idea and then you have concrete, you know, like proof why this doesn't work, then, as you said, you can change the course, right?
Exactly. And not just that, I think what we are doing now in our team is we have an environment. Sanja can share more details there, but we have like a playground which we are trying out and testing out the tools. We're basically not just aligning the stakeholders, you can align internally in the team and learn from each other, because that's one of the, I would say, a plus side of the AI development is that basically each of the team member needs to widen their scope of work and shift their mindset. So that's one of the ways, because in that playground, we're not just trying out and testing the prototypes and see what's the best, fastest way. First of all, everyone can do it from the team. Second of all, we can align inside of the team faster, and we are learning as we do it. So that's the, I think, best approach, because even if we tested out a lot of approaches, we are still not sure for each of the segments where is the best fit. So that's one of the things that by learning, by doing it, we are defining the processes, what is the perfect, depending on the industry, of the customer, of the client. So it really provides a space that each of a designer, a product person, researcher, AI engineer, whoever can build something and show. So we have better mutual understanding even inside of the team.
So I think there are two themes in what you just said that I think are very important. The role of prototyping. The role of prototyping, as you just described, has one internal impact, because internally we are doing prototyping to build the capability for the future. No one has all the capabilities today that are needed to support everything that's happening. So we are all in the learning space. And we need to find a way to do it at scale, to be able to build that capability not only in engineering, but also in product and design and research and business. Business stakeholders also need to upskill and understand what's possible, what's not possible, what's viable, what's not viable, and how to recognize the opportunity from far. The other role is the role in the process or the life cycle of product development. And this is something that I think is very important to emphasize. A prototype is not a product. There's a huge gap between having a prototype and building a prototype and actually making it into production and converting it into a product. There's a huge gap there. And there is a lot of effort, a lot of work that needs to happen in order to convert that prototype into a product. So the role of prototype and the purpose of prototype is not to speed up the development process. What we are positioning the prototype or how we are positioning the prototype today is that's in a way a cross-functional collaboration thinking tool. So we can communicate better with each other, with stakeholders. We can transfer our thinking and concepts into something functional, and we can align better on the decisions much, much earlier in the process compared to a traditional way of building products. That's the difference, and that's the impact. You can imagine something, and instead of trying to explain it with words and let other people interpret your words in their own way, in their own heads, you can show rather than tell, which actually speeds up the communication, speeds up the understanding, speeds up the alignment around what we need to build. Is this the right thing that we need to build? Is this the correct behavior that we want to produce with this kind of solution? And should we move forward or not? So that is the impact of a prototype. And yes, today it's much easier to do it because all the AI tooling, all the low-code tools that exist, the environments that are there are enabling not only engineers, but also non-engineers to build a prototype. But the role of the prototype is to ease the communication, to ease the thinking, and to speed up the validation process, which is critical in building the AI solutions and products. Like we talked like the other day about the traditional way of building a product, and now a new way of building an AI product. And when we had this discussion, we were just thinking about like, what's the difference? What's the difference? Like in a traditional way, where are we starting from?
Yeah, usually in the traditional way, we come from the idea, but somehow isolated, rarely strategic approach. You come from the idea, you do some kind of a validation. I wouldn't say that it's so detailed as Sanja is mentioning, where you can really faster. That's, I think, the core value, because you can do it much faster than
earlier.
you did. And earlier. You're right. So you don't have additional costs later. And then you focus on a feature and you do some kind of a calculation metric, but I would say it's still somehow isolated. You're not looking at the organization as a whole. So it's like I would say a feature factory in a way. And with this new approach, you're taking more strategic approach and look at it. So you think about what problems you are solving. You're focusing on behavior and what you want to tend and provide to the users. And in the end, you go, okay, let's see if the AI is the solution at all, or we are choosing some other. So there are a lot of more steps before we come to, okay, let's implement this technology in this way. Before that, we are sure which value does it provide, and does it actually solve to the user's problem, and does it actually gives additional value? Is it possible to scale it? How you will act further? So I would say it's much wider approach we are taking, and long term, it's lowering the risk. Either it's a cost or a failure, which, as you said in the beginning, it's 70-80%, which is really, really, really high percentage.
Yeah, and I guess one more thing that you need to consider is like adoption, right? Because some AI products will be like really natural, easy to use, and some will, they will look like, this is like high tech, but it's gimmicky, and it's, although technology might be like, cutting edge, adoption will not go as intended if it's not, as you said, if we didn't go through the entire process from validating user needs, from first of all validating, is this pain point actually valid, right?
If we are focusing on the right point. Exactly.
Yeah, and we might, if that, if we suppose that something is a pain point, but it's really not, central to the user, then I guess adoption will fail no matter how good the technology is.
Yeah, that's I would say really a last step. So when we get, if the AI, we need to also understand if the user, what expectations do they have from the technology? How do they understand that? How do they understand it? Is it too early? Sometimes it's not the question if it will provide a value. Maybe it's too early to implement it. Either it's from the user's end or from the market end. So it's definitely a lot of stuff to be taken in, but it's healthier approach. And what is really important when we speak about the new approach versus traditional, there are a lot of changes organizational that need to happen. Either it's organizational transformation that you need to adopt your teams, and on the other side, there is mindset switch that everyone, not just product person. Product person should be a navigator through the whole process, but everyone should be set to think in a strategical way, not just task level or feature level, because that's not now and will not be enough.
So the journey has to be connected,
yeah,
right? Like
and everyone should be included from the start and
it's
interact.
not like linear. Okay, so we finish this phase and then we go to the other.
Exactly.
Okay, so Sanja, what's your take on, what is some new roles have emerged, obviously, so it's not just the product journey that has changed, but also team dynamics, the roles within the team and the way they cooperate. So,
it all comes from the fact that the nature of the products that we are building is different, so it requires a different approach, and it requires a different skill set and a different combination of perspectives from the very beginning to the very end. We need more diverse voices to be included from day one. Now that has a lot to do with adoption that you were mentioning before, because adoption is not something that you think about once you push your product to production. Adoption is something that you start with. And especially with data and AI solutions and products, because they depend on behaviors and because you are actually building something that will have a behavior on its own, and you are building a system that behaves in certain ways that you cannot always predict and you cannot always control, it's very important that you include diverse voices at the beginning, because the diversity is the first step you take when you're building a system, a product for adoption, and not only, well, for something else, whatever that else is. So when we are doing the very, very early phase, the discovery phase, if you call it, in any kind of AI or data product development, we need to have product people, we need to have designers, we need to have researchers. We also need to have someone that is representing a customer, the one that will be using this product, whose workflow, the daily workflow, will be affected once that product ends up being in production. The co-creation is a very critical part of designing a system for success, and the success usually means getting adopted by the workforce or the users that are intended to be using that product in the end. So the co-creation is a huge part of the entire life cycle, the development life cycle of data and AI product. And that's why we need more diverse voices from the beginning and throughout the journey. The diversity changes along the journey because different problems are solved in different phases of or different stages of that journey. In the discovery, we need more strategic thinking, more visionary approach, because we need to envision how this solution will look like. What are the experiences that we want to build? What are those end-to-end interactions that need to exist in order to make sure that you have a product in the end that makes sense, that solves something for someone in a meaningful way? And then what user behaviors are affected and impacted with that new kind of experiences that you're building? Are we going to augment some part of user behaviors? Are we going to support some part of user behaviors? Are we going to completely replace some user behaviors? And then how are we going to do it? What is needed to do that? These are all questions that are happening in early phases. And that's when you need to have those voices around you. And then when we move to mid-phase, toward prototyping and building and validating, then the thinking needs to shift. The discovery will produce a lot of hypotheses, because at its core, these products are research products. There is a lot of research happening to figure out if data makes sense, if experience makes sense, if that approach that you're thinking about makes sense, if that behavior that you're thinking to replace or change makes sense. And the discovery produces a lot of hypotheses. So when you enter the build phase, you have to orchestrate all the experimentation around those hypotheses, to test them, to see if they are true, if they are valid or invalid, and to make a lot of important decisions about how to move forward. Different set of voices you need to have there. For building and prototyping and developing, of course, you need engineering power. Engineers are not going anywhere. But then,
despite the concern,
despite the concern, engineers are not going anywhere, at least not anytime soon. But then you also need designers to build those experiences and to change the experiences based on the feedback from user. User needs to be involved in the process of build, not wait until you push something into production and then do a user validation. So that is a huge change that needs to happen. I know that a lot of product people are advocating for that approach with and without AI. So it doesn't really matter what type of product you're building. You need user voice to be included in the very build process. But I think that becomes even more critical when you're building AI solutions because of the uncertainty that they bring. You have behaviors that you cannot predict. How are you going to build a product that behaves in an unpredictable ways at times, how are you going to manage users? And how are you going to ensure that these products still instill trust and users want to use them? They find them useful and meaningful. And that's the biggest shift, I would say, that makes all the impact on changing the way we approach building these products. And then when you end up into production, when you finally have that release, when you finally have that product in the hands of your users, many would say, we're done. No, you're not. You're only beginning.
When the fun starts.
That's where the fun starts, exactly. So that's when you start thinking, all right, we've built all those feedback loops into our system. Are we sure that these are all we need? How are we going to monitor all of that? How are we going to build observability into the system? How are we going to scale the system? How are we going to take that user feedback, analyze, and make decisions? Again, making decisions is a very critical point that we keep recognizing. Make decisions about how to change this, how to evolve this, how to make it better. When are we going to retrain a model that is at the core of our system? How are we going to know that the drifts that are happening either in data that is fueling the model or drifts in user behavior, which is much harder to be aware of and to notice? How are we going to make a decision about retraining the model or making some other types of changes into our system based on all those changes that are happening in the ecosystem in which our solution lives?
Yeah, maybe just to add what you mentioned as a risk not to reinvest, rework, and similar. What's additional, I would say, even art to define successful metrics and right metrics, how to calculate it, even in early stages, when you have it in production. That should be a great tool of the navigation if you're going in the right direction. But even choosing the right metrics is really an art now, especially in the AI world, which is so unpredictable. And finding a way how to calculate this and give a right prediction, that's really something that I think will evolve and something that we should be focusing on as product and data people. We have a lot of data, just we need to make sure that we are using it in the right way, because that is a great tool for the navigation.
And what are some of the new roles that have actually emerged? Like what expertise do you now need to have within teams? As we discussed the traditional approach and now the new approach. So what are the common gaps, let's say, that companies nowadays have? So my product team has to have which expertise and which role now?
Well, I wouldn't say that it's that we are getting totally new roles. I would say that just the existing roles are changing, and that's what the fear that you mentioned at some point. I think it's funny. We will still have designers, product people, engineers, data people. That will still remain, but it will change the way of thinking and the knowledge. What is maybe from the product perspective for the product people, I think they will need to have wider knowledge, deeper technical knowledge, and wider knowledge in the terms to understand what the data people are working on, how they're doing, designers, how do we interact as a team. But I will just move back to the maybe technology, where I think that AI product people and data product people should be working to increase their knowledge, is because when we see AI, we take, for example, some AI product. On the surface, what you see, it's quite, let's say, not simple, but it's simplified, what you can test, see. But what lies under the surface, it's the complexity. And maybe so far in the classical software development, you could understand till some point, but now without understanding the concepts of infrastructure, how it's being built, how it can scale or not, how you're building that product, because even the life cycle of development of the AI product is not the same. So without that knowledge, I think that it's impossible to lead some AI product or have anything AI related integrated into your segment or organization. So that's one thing. So I would say that it's not maybe new roles. Sanja can add her view, but I would say it's more collaboration, more interaction between the roles, and deeper and wider knowledge of the product people, so they can easily navigate to the whole process.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure how the product landscape will look like in the following years. I'm not even sure that anyone can make any predictions in that way. Yeah, but just thinking about what you said, not being sure if there will be new roles or there will be a change to adopt some roles. I am actually not sure if there will be new roles or adapted existing roles. What I can tell from what I see is that data and AI require much deeper technical knowledge. That's something I want to underline. With product people as well. So that doesn't mean that the product people have to learn how to code, because coding is not the only definition of technology and technical skills. But they do need, in this case, to understand how the technology works. So they need to understand neural networks. They need to understand how they work. They don't need to build one, but they do need to understand how those LLMs work. How are they generating tokens? What are the limitations? What are the failure modes for these models? How to choose the right model for the right problem that you need to solve? And then how to evaluate the outputs of the system or the model that is part of your intelligent system, intelligent product. So these are all responsibilities, knowledge nuggets that you need to have as a product manager, because you need to drive technical discussions. You need to be able to communicate with technical people at a deeper technology level, and to make decisions and connect those decisions with business questions. So product people are already doing that in the traditional digital space. Just the level of technology understanding is now deeper. The requirements of technology proficiency are higher for data and AI. And it is not something that can be learned overnight. Yeah. So that's another thing I want to emphasize here.
Yeah, absolutely.
What maybe adds complexity there in, for example, heavily regulated markets like healthcare or automotive, is that you have, in parallel with this whole new market, a lot of stuff coming in, you have a regulation which is changed, on monthly basis. Yeah. And you need, as a product manager, you don't have to know by the most details, but you need to understand how the process works, because even if you have, for example, some AI model implemented as a product, when you validate it, retest it, you have basically, they are looking it as a new model. How do you go over that process? You need to know that. You need to understand where you can maybe skip the gaps or fasten up the whole process. So I think that it's just adding the complexity. Again, in heavily regulated markets, really product people need to be aware of all the changes. And it's really now hard, I guess, over time, when the things get some direction and more clarity on the laws, on the regulations and so on, it will be different. But for now, it will be fun times. Yeah, definitely.
So back from product teams, to the user, who is, central to our discussion, and products are becoming more and more user-centric, and users are expecting more and more personalized interactions. And, as our daily interactions become more intuitive, that's what we are expecting from technology now. So with this AI shift and then the broader technology shift, how do you see the role of that personalization and hyper-personalization, and the other side of the medal, whether AI, it can contribute to greater personalization, but it can also add more complexity?
Yeah, you're correct. I guess that especially younger audience and users are expecting faster, more simple user experience which is adapted to their needs. We can take an example, Netflix, which they are really building great algorithms to give you good predictions based on your history, what you can see next, watch next.
I wanted to know what I want,
Yeah.
right? Without me having to ask.
Exactly, and then that's saves your time in a way, gives your mind reading, and in the other hand, when we are looking again on Netflix as an example, when you continue watching some episode where you stop, they move it 10 seconds before, so they lower your cognitive load on so you can easily continue where you stop. So
it gives me time to prepare.
Exactly. So it's basically not expanding the feature set. So I think that organizations in general are not going building more complex system, but simplifying it for the user, but in behind for the teams, that's adding more complexity because, as I said before, below the surface, it's where the complexity lies. So definitely personalization is a big thing in the product world now, where we should focus. And there are different, we've discussed it a few days ago, there are different ways of personalization and different segments of personalization, depending on what the user is. Either it's you're using it for your free time and using some products which it's for your daily use in general. Second direction is more of your work time and how you can make it easier for yourself, for your daily use on the job. Because we all know we have a lot of tools on the different sites that we're using, and we need a place where and how we can centralize that, how we can easily get the transcript. Now we all know, I think we are at that stage that at least we can summarize easily what we spoke, see how we can easily use it, prepare faster. So that's, again, another area of personalization. And in general, I think it will go towards that. So less adding and complexity for the users and less feature set, but more simplifying, making it faster and more adjusted to the user itself.
Yeah, so streamlined, as simple as possible, as you said.
I think that business personalization is something that is kind of emerging as a concept. Is not much discussed, but it is definitely happening. We can see it in our company as well. The personalization of work. You have your copilot license, right?
Right.
How do you use it? How did you make your work for you?
Well, like from summarizing, like, for example, there's like a huge email thread and you need to go through, you were on vacation, you didn't have the time to read it like with much focus. And then you're back and like, okay, so I need to ingest all this. Okay, please summarize this for me. And it does, or summarize my team meeting, or summarize this document for me, or, so for me, as a person who's like in content, it really saves time. For me, it saves a lot of time doing the research primarily, and this is where, so different users and different segments, depending on your space, it depends on how you're gonna use it. But for me, it's number one, saves time, boosts productivity. That's.
Yeah. So, and it makes your work more enjoyable.
Yeah.
Because you have just pushed aside all those mundane things that you had to do before. And now suddenly you have someone to do it for you or something to do it for you. Now, in my case, I also have a copilot license and I use it in a completely different way. Like the biggest gain for me is summarizing meetings or just searching through meeting notes, through a lot of meeting notes to find common themes. That's a gain for me, but it doesn't have to be a gain for you. But yet again, both you and I are finding a way to personalize our work, our jobs, and make them work for us. Find balance that wasn't there before, and just remove all the things that are dull in a way, and that are requiring a lot more effort than you are ready to give.
Yeah. Plus, the more I work with Copilot, the more I learn from it and it learns from me, so the more I use it, the more personalized it will be, the easier my interactions would be. Because I know that when I started using not just Copilot or any AI, I was like, my prompts were probably not as good, and I was like, okay, so this tool doesn't work. Something's wrong. Yeah, something's wrong with this tool, But as you use it more and more, it learns about you, but you also learn about it.
It's always about something else, not about you, right?
Yeah, so the more you use it, the more useful it is for you and everyone. And that's brings us back to the user perspective. I need something that works for me.
Exactly. So that is what I want to emphasize here. We are not talking only about personalization at scale in terms of product users, like those that are using a service, that are using a product that you're selling your service to. We are talking about personalization for all users. And work personalization is something that I think will be discussed much more in the future, because if we are able to use these tools and make them really work for us in a way to personalize our job for us and make me love my job more, I mean, that's going to be awesome. Like, I've seen a lot of examples in our company. People are using Copilot and people are doing wonders. Like, they are building their own agents. They are building the agents that help them go through a lot of documentation. I mean, that I know it's a common use case, but it is something that really makes people's time less and lowers the effort and speeds up some insights generation and just helps them go through a ton of documentation to get something they need to move forward, to make that next step in their work. So I've seen that, and I've also seen a lot of writing assistance happening, which is great for people who are speaking English as a foreign language, for example, when you have to do that formal communication, but you're just not so sure about your language skills. So it's great to have something like that to help you cross that bridge. And you're learning, you're improving without realizing it. So there are a lot of success stories inside the company, which is why I'm thinking about this work level, employee level personalization. There are a lot of other tools as well that we are not using in our company, but others are. For example, Notion AI offers something similar for those who love to use Notion. Then NA10, for example, is a tool that really helps you automate any workflow if a company provides you with that tool or a tool that is similar to that one. For example, in Microsoft, that could be equal to Power Apps or something like that. You can really just automate your workflow. Now imagine that. Yeah, you have the Copilot that can help you do a specific task faster, but then you can have a solution to automate the entire workflow. And that really brings that, making the job work for me at another level. And now, if we zoom out even more and observe all of that from the business perspective, from the organization perspective, we are then talking about something that sounds like business personalization. How to make the operating model work for my business, for my company. Well, when you take this bottom-up approach, such as this one, letting employees use the AI tools and find a way to make them useful for them, to make the work feel easier, more lovable.
Yeah.
You can actually find patterns across the company, and you can take that bottom-up approach and find solutions that can help you personalize your business, help you recognize something that can actually work at scale inside your company and make your company a better place for all your workers, but also for the business itself. Like a good example for that is, I think, JP Morgan. They've built their own coin platform for processing legal documents, but in a way for that processing to be aligned with their internal legal policies. So it works for them. It cannot work in another company, but it saves them some report, 360,000 hours per work per year.
Yeah.
That's a huge save. So they found something, a workflow, a process that will help all of their employees work faster, better, be more productive, and not think about mundane tasks that they need to do in order to get the job done. And they made it work for them. Now, that's another level of personalization. Some would even call it business transformation, but I'm not sure we want to go into that topic. But that's another level of personalization that we can also think about. So what I really, really love about all this happening in the AI field and the technology space is all these new ideas, all these new opportunities, all these new thought processes that are going on. Something meaningful will come out of all of that, I hope.
Yeah. And as you said, like if you're a business and thinking about it as a strategic priority, it helps you not fall behind. Because as you said, I don't fear that like an LLM will come and it will like obliterate entire departments and people, but you should think instead, you should think about, okay, how this adds value. And you said about the hours saved. So the hour saves, imagine in the business value it translates to. I didn't do this, but obviously my workday didn't stop here because, okay, so I managed to like ingest all this, that's it for the day. But instead you use those hours to create something that's, much, much more important. So yes, in terms of business value it generates, it's really insane.
And I think, as Sanja mentioned, makes your work more
enjoyable. Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely, because it lowers your manual work or something that you're doing repetitive, which is usually boring, and gives you time and space to work on more creative stuff or think how you can further improve process. And while you're mentioning this personalization on the business level, maybe one of the things we spoken what are the usual reasons of the fail of implementation is that sometimes what we see is as the customers come and really narrow down, okay, I see this process, I want to automate it, for example, but they are not looking, again, what we are talking more strategically on the organizational level. Maybe the solution is not just do it one-on-one, automate the current process as it look like. Maybe the whole process should be changed.
Yeah.
Maybe the AI is not a solution. You can do it in any other way. So again, we are getting back to think more strategically, look it wider, and then choose your battles. Because again, end of the day, you will have some metrics which you need to report.
Yeah. And what you're just saying and talking about is system thinking. Yeah. And that's a very, very important skill that needs to exist and will be even more important in the following years, because that's what makes AI different than anything else that we've seen. It's not just a technology. No, it's not. It's not only technology. Yes, there is a technical part of it. There is a technology component that plays a key role in implementing it and making it useful. But there are also other aspects, like people aspect, the processes inside the company, the leadership, the business alignment and strategy, the data that is very important and kind of kept being forgotten. There are so many other aspects because that you need to consider, and that's why systems thinking is a key skill that will need to exist in the future to make AI work.
Okay, so I guess we talked a lot about how AI impacts the end product, but here we see, how it impacts much more than that. So maybe, from some concrete examples from the way your team works, and operates, how would you say that AI has changed it all?
What we can do is we can actually do a segmentation of a type of work that AI helped. So there's automation piece. Find me a process that can be automated or a task that can be automated so I can do things much faster. And I think these are still the most common use cases because it's something that is, easy to understand. Like the biggest challenge here is understand what AI can and cannot do, and that's why it's so hard to find the right use case. So when you observe a process in your company, for example, and you see, all right, here is a bottleneck, and then there's another bottleneck. Let's try to automate that and speed things up. That's something that is a clear use case and that can be done and that can be defined actually easily, and that you can see benefits from it quite quickly. And we did a lot of that with different clients in different industries. The next segment of use cases are those that augment something, augment a human or augment process or something like that. So that is something that is currently most talked about. So we are slowly moving from automation to augmentation at the moment. And I think a lot of talk right now is about how to build AI systems and solutions that augment people, not replace them. We had a couple of examples here as well, where, I don't know, we developed kind of assistant, that was many years ago, for a knowledge management platform that helped users get to the knowledge resources without making an effort, only based on understanding what their interests and intents at the moment are and what the research topics are. So that's one way that you can think of augmentation, like I'm just loading your cognitive effort in a way and presenting you with what you need to continue working. Again, different industries, many different use cases with some aspects of augmentation or full augmentation. But again, that's something that I think will be the main type of use cases in the following months and years. And what we still don't see much, and that will come in the future, is the full transformation. And that's the last aspect that we talked about. Like, if you really want to use AI to its fullest capacity, then you need to rethink the way things are working. You don't need to automate a process. You don't need to augment the process. You need to redesign a process. So that's the third segment. That is something that will come because it requires the maturity of thinking, but also requires trust. So people and businesses specifically need to trust in this technology enough to jump into the redesign, the rethinking. Some are doing it. And we do have a client right now that I cannot talk about, unfortunately, but that is jumping into the transformation piece. But they are very cautious. Usually, everybody's open to discuss what the transformation could mean. They're open to even engage in visioning and envisioning and designing for the future. But when the execution comes, when you start talking about, all right, what will it take to make that real? What needs to be true to make that real? That's when you start talking about risks. Yeah. That's when you start talking about governance and ethics and responsibilities and everything else, compliance, everything that is still seen as more of a blocker than enabler. Yeah. So it makes people pause, it makes businesses pause. But I think that this full transformation is something that awaits and is definitely something that will happen, but after we exhaust the augmentation part.
Okay, so final thoughts and from both of you. So that's all. Do you think what Sanja just talked about? Is it something that's tangible? Is it something that you see becoming possible in the next few years, or what's your final?
Yeah, definitely. To be honest, I'm curious what will happen. I think none of us really know in which direction. I think that we shouldn't be afraid of it. we should be cautious in a way, but again, with setting the right direction, looking at the data, which I think we didn't cover as much as it should be. But in general, looking at the data, a lot of companies are sitting on a bunch of data they are not using. They are not monetizing it. They're not using it to get a direction what the users want, feel, to predict their behavior. So I think that we are at the stage that using the data in the right way and playing and be open with the technology will get us to a certain point where we can define where it's good to use, where it's not. I think in general now we already see that it's not implementable, let's say in all, for all the problems where I think we were half a year ago. So to be honest, I'm really curious. Definitely think that everyone should be open and test it and try it out and learn. And I would like to have this conversation in 6 months again. And I think it will be quite different. And I'm really looking forward to see. So any case, more strategic thinking, not micro-focusing on specific segments, and be open to learn new things.
Yeah. So jumping on this train early will definitely be an advantage.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think that businesses are finally starting to realize how important the data is. And data will be that differentiator in the future, proprietary data, because every business has data. But that data needs to be of expected quality, that data needs to be governed in a way to be really, really usable. Also, there is a question if you really have enough data, because many businesses say we have a lot of data. But then when you start talking about how are you making decisions using that data, you realize that the decisions that they are making are based on something that is not in their databases. It's usually experience and intuition and a lot of tacit knowledge that is not digitized. That's a future problem that we will all need to be thinking about and solving at some point. But anyway, the trend I'm seeing is a lot of businesses are talking about analytics. So analytics is making a huge comeback. Although I'm not even sure that it's going to be called analytics anymore, I think it's kind of transforming into decision intelligence space, because what many are also asking for is actionability. So I don't want to see yet another dashboard with, too many KPIs that I don't even understand. I want to know what I need to do next. So give me that recommendation, give me that actionable item that I can act on right now, today. I don't want to spend time analyze data. I want to have actionable insights. So that's the analytics type of asks that I'm hearing a lot. And that's a good thing, because that's a foundation for any kind of intelligence that should happen on top of that data and on top of the other resources the companies have in the future and processes as well. So that's important. And I'm really happy that we are engaging again in analytics discussions. And another thing that I wanted to emphasize for the end is that making that transformation from digital company to data company to intelligent company to AI company to whatever you want to call it is hard work. Nothing is going to happen overnight. Nothing is going to happen with the POC. You just have to put in very hard work and time and effort to get that value out of it, to get the desired outcome, to get the desired result, and to start seeing return.
Okay, great talk. Let's meet again in 6 months or in a year or two. This might be a completely different conversation. So thanks a lot, ladies.
Thank you.
It was great to have you, and see you next time.
See you next
Thank
time.
you.
Bye.
HTEC.